Hey, what's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Change What We Normalize podcast. I'm super excited for my next guest. This woman really needs no introduction, but she's incredible. So I'm going to give her one anyway, right? I'm going to give her one anyway. She's super dope, and I'm glad that we had the opportunity to have her on the podcast. So make sure you grab your notebooks. If you are someone who is a writer, I'm just going to go straight in. If you're a writer, if you're somebody who's a creative, grab your notebook right now. Because you're going to want to gather some of these gems that the sister is about to share. All right, cool? All right, so today on the podcast, we have Dr. Sheena C. Howard, who is a multi-hyphenated writer, professor of communication, TEDx speaker, which is fire. I watched the TED Talk, and a creative entrepreneur. Thank you. Thank you for being on the podcast today.
Thanks for inviting me. It's an honor, for sure.
It's an honor, and what I want to do first and foremost, especially for my black women, my black queens out there, is I want to affirm you and give you your flowers. For me, as you can see, I don't even know how to word this, my Black Woman Matters shirt. It's super important to me that we honor you and that we celebrate you, one, not for just the work that you're doing, but just for who you are.
Thank you.
I believe it's truly inspiring to so many people, especially so many young black women. And I want to give you your flowers because often we wait until people are gone before we give them their flowers.
Yes.
Right? And I want people to really be able to smell the roses like right now. Like, give me mine now. So I want to give you those, and I want to allow you to receive those.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. So let's jump right into this thing. So what I love to do for each one of my guests, I always do a mental wellness, mental health check-in. So when I'm in the schools, as everyone knows that watches and listens, I speak, I travel, and I always do a mental wellness check-in because I never want to assume that everyone's okay.
Right.
You out here doing your thing. And I don't want to assume just because you're doing your thing that everything is cool. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So what we do is we do a mental wellness check-in on a scale of 1 through 10. How are you feeling today? So I'm going to ask you, how are you feeling today on a scale of 1 through 10?
Today I'm at a 9.
Hey,
I'm at a 9
like
today. That. Yeah. I'm a little sleepy, so that's why it's a 9, because sleep is very important to me. So I'm at a 9. A 9 is good.
9 is solid. I like that. I would say I'm at a 9 too, and it's the sleep thing.
Mm-hmm.
Since I got back in town, it's been no sleep. And I'm planning out the rest of my day in my head. I'm like, I got to pack. I got to be up early tomorrow morning. I got to go here shoot with my mom.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not about to get sleep until I get back on the plane.
Right.
That sleep thing is real. My therapist was actually on my head about me getting more sleep.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I don't operate well without sleeping. Is really important to me. I have it listed out next to my bed what time I need to go to sleep and wake up to get 8 hours of sleep. And it's part of me being productive. Like, getting sleep is part of me being productive. I can't pump out top quality writing material if I don't have enough sleep. And I need to be on a schedule. Like, I need to go to bed and wake up pretty much around the same time every day. The last couple of days, my schedule has been off because my 5-year-old has been home from school because he's sick. So that's why my sleeping schedule is a little off. And I mean, even if I get too much sleep, that's bad. Like, I need to be right around 8 hours. Yeah.
I never thought to do that, and I aspire to get 8 hours of sleep. I'm around like 6, sometimes 5.5, and I'm like, this ain't the wave for you, bro. Like, you need to start getting more quality sleep.
And it's different for everybody. That's why you have to know yourself, because some people can do 6 hours and that's all they need. That's why you have to be in tune with yourself, which is really important. I have a user's manual for myself, which I think everybody should create their own personal user's manual. And it should be like, how people have brand strategy guides. You need to have your own personal operating user's manual. So I know, and I could just go through the user's manual. So I know if I get a headache, I need to eat a banana. That works for me. If the headache is still there, I need to eat 2. The headache will go away. I know that I need 8 hours of sleep. I know that my peak writing hours are between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. So if I have a writing project, I need to set my days up where I'm writing at 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Writing at night doesn't work for me. So I know all of these things so that Sheena C. Howard can operate at peak level. And that's important to mental health, because a lot of people don't know themselves that intimately. And so, if you have a user's manual for yourself, if you just stop and really pay attention to yourself, write it all down in a PDF and create your user's manual.
Okay, so I'm definitely doing that. And I thought that I knew myself very well, but I'm definitely going to take some time to do that. Because I usually sit and reflect, and I know what I need and what I don't. But I love the idea of having it like in my face,
Yeah.
and being able to see it. That's a different level right there. So
Yeah. Even thinking about like in my user's manuals, like Alzheimer's runs in my family. So I know that might be in the cards for me. So I know blueberries, pineapples, if you eat those things, that could potentially protect you from dementia. So all that stuff should be in your user's manual.
preventative maintenance.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
my grandmother, my grandma Sally's actually dealing with that right now. And I'm huge on, brain health and things like
Yeah.
that. So it's something I'm consciously aware of. But again, the user's manual thing is powerful. And you're already dropping gems. We just started. So I'm going to pull back a little bit. Before we go too deep, I'm going to pull back a little bit while I have you here. So I love to do like a little icebreaker. Obviously, we don't need one, y'all. We in here. We deep.
We just went right in, yo.
Right. We jump right in. But I want to ask these because I'm always interested to hear people's response. So off the cuff, what's your favorite movie and why?
So the first movie that comes to mind is Love Jones.
Classic.
Yeah, and
Classic.
why? I don't really know. It's just I can watch it over and over and over again. I could tell you that my book Nina's Whisper, the name Nina, the character, I got that name from Love Jones because her name is Nina in the movie. So I just feel like it's a classic. I feel like it's a classic like
That's
love
fire.
story.
That's fire. That's
Yeah.
fire. For me, I always share the same one on every episode. Mine's is The Pursuit of Happiness.
Yeah, that's a good
I
one.
love that
Yeah,
movie.
that's a
It's
good one.
the storyline, what it means to be resilient, what it means to not, fall victim to other people's opinions
Yeah.
and thoughts. The lesson Will's teaches to
Yeah.
his son. I'm like, yo, this is the movie of my life.
Yeah.
And anytime it's on, I'm watching it. My wife is like, all right, just turn it off.
Right.
I'm like, yo, I have to. I love this movie.
Right. And you know what's
how-
dope about that movie? It's a storyline that we don't see because it's a single father.
Right.
We never
Come on, somebody.
see as a writer, I'm always like I want to write stuff that's going to amplify things that challenge the dominant narrative, the things that we see over and over and over again. And we don't there are a lot of single fathers out here.
A lot.
And there are single black fathers doing their thing. And so that's one of the things that I really love about that movie because it's like I can't think of another movie where there's a single father, a mainstream movie like that.
Right. Wow. I didn't even think about it that way, but you're very, that's not highlighted almost.
Exactly.
It's always the dad is missing.
Exactly.
The dad is gone, it's the single mother. That's
Exactly.
powerful.
So if you're like a single father or a kid who's your dad is raising you, you don't have any media or any content to make you feel like somebody else is experiencing what you're experiencing, and that's really important.
I got to do a talk on that. That's deep. I need to break down the pursuit of happiness because that's deep and it's so true. It's so many power, and I know a few of them too. That's like
Exactly.
doing
Me
their thing
too. Yeah.
And putting in the work, trying to figure out how to do hair
Right,
and all types
right.
of stuff. And
Right.
it goes both ways, but the dominant narrative is definitely the single mother. So,
Yep.
Wow, that's powerful. All right, that was wow. That really made me think a little bit. So, second question, last one. What's a food that you can't live without? Your favorite food?
Yo, I like bread so much, and it's so bad for you. But definitely a croissant. I mean,
Really?
yeah.
Croissants do
whew.
be slapping depending on what's on them.
Yeah,
All by
yeah,
itself,
yeah.
honestly.
A top quality croissant though. Yeah.
Where you getting your
yeah.
croissants from?
So I go to this black-owned coffee shop in Philadelphia called Alchemy Coffee over on 21st and Walnut,
Shout out
and
Alchemy.
they got dope coffee. The thing about their coffee is it's consistent. The latte tastes the same every morning.
Right, I need that to be the
Right.
same.
Yeah. But they have some good croissants too.
Nice. I'm gonna have to check them out because I'm a huge coffee lover. I'm trying to cut back a little bit, but I love some good coffee and a croissant. Fire.
Yeah. That's another thing about that operating manual. I know that my max one latte a day. I will not let myself drink more than that. And if I drink coffee after 1 p.m., it's going to keep me up all night. So you got to know those little things about yourself. Because if I drink coffee after 1 p.m. and then I'm up until 2 a.m. and then I have to wake up at 6, I just threw my whole creative agenda off. I just messed up my entire next day. So that's the user manual kicking in.
All right. When did you create this user manual? When did that happen?
So I've been working on mines probably for like 6 or 7 months. And I really think
this is recent.
Yeah.
Okay.
6 or 7 months. And I really think it's a product of the spiritual journey I went on, and the realization that if you want to be really successful, you do have to be on a spiritual journey of some sort. It doesn't matter what it looks like, but you gotta connect to something outside yourself. That's just my personal opinion. It doesn't have to be God. It could be, there's so many different spiritual journeys.
Right. I love that. You should. We'll talk off camera because I don't want to say something and somebody try to steal the idea, but there's something you should do with that. But anyway, so I want to jump right into it while I have you for a little bit of time here. A quote that I love to share, and I'm a huge quote person. You'll learn that about me. I live by quotes. I post quotes. I have notes in my phone that's just full of quotes. One of my favorite quotes, and I share this everywhere I go when I'm speaking, is that your story is about you, but it's not for you. It's for someone else.
Yeah.
So I want you to, take us back prior to, Dr. Sheena C. Howard. Like, prior to that, what was the story? How did we get to this point? What does that backdrop look like?
Yeah, I love that you said that, because the way I write is that I understand that the things that I write could be somebody else's survival guide. So I love that you said that, because that's how I think about writing. But before Dr. Sheena Howard, so educationally, so I have a PhD. But education,
Come on, y'all. Let's not play with it. Let's not play with it like that's normal. Let's not play with it.
Right. My educational journey looks like a hodgepodge, though. So I have an undergraduate degree in marketing from a business school. I have a master's in graphic design and a PhD in intercultural and rhetorical communication. And when you look at those three things, it's like, wow, those are three different things that seem completely unrelated. But I think the story behind that is I just followed what I was interested in. I didn't major in anything because somebody told me to, or because I thought it was going to make me a lot of money. I didn't care about any of that. I looked through the majors, and if something spoke to me, that's what I majored in. And I think that's really important, because I think if you're passionate about something or into it, you will find ways to make money at it. Right. And I think if you're not passionate about something, it's going to be difficult mentally, but also just on your life's journey to really feel connected to that thing, because it's not really who you are, right? You're doing it because somebody else told you to do it. So I think, before the Dr. Sheena Howard was just me just really, moving to my own beat a little bit, and just gravitating towards the things that I felt pulled to. Were you always that way? Or you kind of didn't go with the status quo? I think so. Yeah. I was very popular in high school, but that's only because I played sports and I was really, really, really good at sports. I actually went D1 scholarship, all of that. I didn't have to pay for undergrad, all of that. Sports Hall of Fame at West Catholic, all of that. Over it now. So I say that to say, I was popular because of that, but I wasn't in the in crowd. I would say a little bit of a loner. I had my two friends that I would rock out with, and I've always been that way, close circle. I don't need a lot of people. I don't need a lot of people around me. I just need a couple of close friends in my family. And I would say that I throughout my life, sometimes it could be lonely though. Sometimes staying on your own path and being committed to it can be a little bit lonely, but I think that's the thing that makes me successful in my area of writing, for sure. That's fire. And that's very true. So for writing, have you always been, because like you said, you were an athlete, you were a star, you were doing your thing. Was writing always something that interested you? Did you always have this gift to write? Yeah. I was always, writing was always the way that I felt most comfortable expressing myself. So that's how I would express myself. Yeah. And, in school though, it wasn't encouraged. They never... For me in school, writing was never encouraged. They always marked me up for the grammatical stuff or the sentence structure, but they never cared about the ideas. And in fact, in 5th or 6th grade, we had to write this poem. It was called a psalm, because I went to Catholic school for elementary school. So the assignment was to write this psalm, basically a poem that rhymed. So I wrote the psalm, turned it in. When the teacher gave me my grade back, he gave me an A, but the note that he wrote said, "This is good if you wrote it." So basically, my thing was so good that you just accused me of cheating. When I did write it, I just happened to be a really good writer. So I've always been a good writer. But it's things like that, right? It's things like that where it's like, writing for me was never encouraged in the educational system, but I had a mother that supported me writing, supporting me publishing from a really early age. And then in high school, you know, my writing assignments just looked like red marks all over the place. Like it was actually kind of like it was discouraging to be quite honest. So yeah.
That's interesting to hear that, you know, it was so discouraging, and because that can turn somebody away from something that they were called to do.
Yep.
So I'm thinking about you right now, and it's like, imagine if you were so discouraged when those things happen. You was like, I'm good off this. I'm gonna do something else. It's like we wouldn't be blessed with what you've already given the world now and what you're constantly creating.
Yeah.
And that's a word for somebody right now, because you're allowing somebody right now that's listening or watching is allowing the opinions of others to move them out of alignment for where they're supposed to be with their path. And you have to be like, what was the mindset for you to still stay resilient and focused? Like, look, I know what you're saying, but I'm here with it.
You know, I think it kind of didn't matter to me what people were saying about my writing, because that was the most comfortable way for me to express myself. So it was like I would just write in my journal. Like I would write if I had to tell my mom something difficult, I would write her a note. So like it kind of is like, all right, well, the school doesn't like the way I'm putting these sentences together, but that was the best way that I knew. It's just the most comfortable way for me to express myself. So I was gonna do it regardless. Now, I think it did discourage me from thinking that I could have a career as a writer, because I think if I was supported in the educational system early on, I probably would have done creative writing in college, right? I would have done creative writing or something like that. I would have had an MFA or something like that. But yeah, it wasn't supported.
It's interesting though, because even with that, like you would have been on that path. I personally believe, and that's just my personal belief, that God has this plan for us, and we're able to look back and connect the dots. Like looking forward, it's like,
For sure.
This joint don't really make sense.
For sure.
But you're able to look back, and it's like, yo, a lot of stuff happened. There was a lot of trials and tribulations through childhood, teen years, adult years, you know, my collegiate years. But it's led me to this point.
For sure.
The plan was never just this straight line like people want it to be, or social media portrays it as.
Yeah.
It's like you went through a lot of different things, ups and downs, that landed you here with the experience and the wisdom that you have to share something of value, because you don't just write books for the sake of writing books. You don't just put out articles and things like that. Like your stuff has substance,
right?
Like real substance.
Well, thank you,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Even the one that you shared with me when we actually initially met, Why Wakanda Matters.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Yeah,
like that's so fire to me. And actually, I want you to share a little bit about that book.
Sure.
Because that's a powerful piece of I would call it art in a sense, and that's something that's going to live on, you know, far exceed us.
Yeah.
That's something that you're going to leave for, you know, your child. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's powerful. I want you to share a little bit about that.
Yeah. So the book Why Wakanda Matters. I basically put that book together because I wanted to have a deeper conversation about what we were seeing in the film Black Panther. So everybody was hype about it. People were seeing it multiple times. Celebrities were buying out like theaters. I never seen anything like that before, right? But I wanted to have a deeper conversation about psychologically, like what was happening, like what were just psychologically what was happening there, and psychologically, you know, what can we learn from the film Black Panther as the Black community? What can the Black community learn from the film Black Panther? And so I put that book together to be able to talk about mental health in the Black community through the characters and the storyline that we were seeing in the film Black Panther. And that's what the book is about. It's just chapter after chapter about, you know, racial identity development, you know, epigenetics, collectivity in the Black community, conversations around gender in the Black community, topics like cognitive dissonance, you know, mental discomfort that we experience that pushes us to be better or worse, quite frankly. So just detailing all of those things around mental health, specifically for Black people.
That's so powerful. And I want to ask you this. Prior to, you know, putting out your work or writing another book, do you come up with the idea first, or do you see like a problem and you see a need that you want to fill?
Yeah, it's different because I write different types of books. So at this point, I've written film, nonfiction, fiction, comic books, graphic novels. I'm writing a song now. So
Oh, you're a
it's
writer, writer.
yeah, yeah,
You're
yeah.
a writer, writer.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think for me it's important to push myself.
I love it.
I need to be able to grow and write across different mediums to push myself. So it's different. For the Why What Kinda Matters book, I had the idea first. And then I put the proposal together. And since I wanted like actual like mental health professionals to write for that book as well, so each chapter is written by a different person. I have a chapter, I wrote the foreword, and then like actual professionals have chapters in this book. So it's just a process of collaborating and guiding them for how to write for a mass audience as opposed to just an academic audience. So that's the process for those types of edited books. The edited books are really just good ideas that I have, and then finding the people to collaborate on them.
That's fire, and I'm so glad that you put that together because it's necessary and it's needed. Because, like you said, at that time, we didn't know what the heck was going on. We just knew it was up.
We was just hype.
We was in the movies like we was doing the Wakanda sign. Everybody was coming in their garbs and their garments, and it was a time in history that I'll never forget.
Right.
And for you to really unpack that
Exactly.
is powerful, and be bold enough to go forward with like, I want to do the work to unpack this.
Yeah.
I think that's powerful. So I want to ask you about. I would say this is your latest work. Is it Nina's Whisper? Yeah, Nina's Whisper. The novel, and then also you were talking about the soundtrack. So I want to dive a little deep and please share with the audience, the backstory on those pieces of work.
So Nina's Whisper, the novel, came out in 2020, and that's the first book I ever self-published. So all my other work has been published by publishers. I self-published that book because I wanted to be able to talk authoritatively about the difference between self-publishing and traditional publishing. So that was one of the main reasons why I self-published that book. But also, like I said before, I want to grow in each area. So I need to be writing and doing different things across different mediums and different modes of publishing. So after I did the novel, I did a graphic narrative of that book. So there's Nina's Whisper, the graphic narrative as well, which is the same story, it's just images. So right now the novel is under an option agreement with a producer in LA. And there's a screenwriter that's writing, it's called Write on Spec. So we've been working together to translate the book into a screenplay. And then it's going to be shopped around the studios. We shopped it around the studios the first time. We didn't get anybody to bite. So that's when we brought in the writer to write on spec for the screenplay. What's happening now with that book, though, is I've been talking about that book on Instagram. So people actually think it's a new book, but really it came out in 2020. But I haven't been talking about it for a couple of years. That's another thing that for the writers in the audience, a lot of times what we do when we publish a book is we'll do a big launch, right? When the book comes out, we'll do a big launch. We're hyped. We do the launch, we're exhausted after the launch, and then we never come back to it. It's like, all right, I sold 150 copies on the launch, and then we stop promoting it, right? And so what I learned was, just by me talking about that book 2 years later on Instagram, my book sales are back. Like, the people are like buying the book now, and it's not a new book, right? So I think that's a good lesson for writers to remember. Like, yeah, spend the time on the launch. That's really important, but keep promoting it. And most writers do not do that when they self-publish. They do the launch, and then they just kind of move on to the next thing.
That's me with my first book. You're talking directly to me. My first book, Building Muscle, Life is Your Trainer, I kind of stopped publishing it. I mean, not stop publishing, but stopped talking about it. Maybe like a few months after the launch.
Yep.
And I started working on another book.
Exactly.
But it's like, I was in Dallas this past week, and, they wanted a bunch of copies of that book. The first one, I'm like, I got to bring this. Like, this joint still got so much value.
Exactly.
Like, I got to breathe some life back into this thing. So now that you said, like, the promotion is like, okay, that was a sign right there. Like,
yes. You got to keep talking about them. And so that's why now I'm doing the Nina's Whisper soundtrack. So all of these iterations of this book helps me to keep talking about it, right? So I think maybe we need a motive to keep talking about it, right? So if you publish a book 2 years later, it's like, I don't know what other content to talk about with this book because I published it 2 years ago. But me keeping it alive allows me to talk about it in different ways. So now we're doing the Nina's Whisper soundtrack with an artist named Zim, who's doing a phenomenal job. We've been in here cooking up the song. It's going to be amazing, and just gives me a different angle to talk about the book. And so I think I think this is sort of an interesting thing going forward where I might just go back and do soundtracks to all my books, right? I mean, you think about movies, there's always a soundtrack, there's some music, and so I think that might be a path forward to just, and it's fun, right? It's fun to, I think you come up with really good ideas when you start putting your foot in different things. But I'm also big on staying in my lane too, at the same time.
Not going too far.
Yeah.
You really got my wheels turning though, because now I'm thinking about my books and my projects and things. I'm like, I need to really go back and like, I can do some stuff with this. Like, I'm thinking about documentaries. I'm thinking about all types of stuff. So you definitely got my juices flowing. I'll talk to you about it, Mike. We can talk about it off camera. It's classified. Nah, I'm joking. So as we start to wrap up, because again, I want to respect your time.
For sure.
What's next for Dr. Sheena C. Howard outside of what you just shared with Nina? What's next, or what are you projecting on?
So I have some amazing things that I'm working on right now. I think 2023 is going to be an explosive year for me when all of these things come out. I just finished a graphic novel, just finished writing DMC's graphic novel from Run DMC. So hopefully that'll be out next year. I'm working on a book for a nonprofit called the Prison Yoga Project, which is an amazing nonprofit that actually teaches yoga to juveniles who are in the system. So, that's my lane. I love that, right? Just being impactful. And then my book, Black Lives Always Matter, is now in the Philadelphia public school system. It was actually written not to be sold. It was written for the Philadelphia public school system. And I think that's one of the most amazing things that I've ever done as a writer. Like you think about writing, you want to write the book, you want to sell the book, right? But a book that's now in the hands and available to every student in the public school system is just such a huge, amazing honor for me. That's
a legacy piece.
Yeah.
That's powerful right there. That's powerful. And I want to, again, congratulate you on it, because that's huge.
Thank you. Thank you.
The lives that are going to be impacted by your work, it's just another level, y'all. It's another level. Like, people be on money so much,
right?
This and that's like, yo, get into the purpose level. You know what I mean? And really focus on that and watch how these doors open and watch how your impact grows. And I really want people to gather that from this. I really want people to gather that from this.
And I will say, I had to come around to like actually wanting to make money, and I think wanting to make money is really, really, really important. But before I was like, nah, I'm just gonna come out of my pocket and write this book or do this thing, and that's not the way to go. Like, you need to make money at what you're doing, and one of the things that really transformed my life this year is I actually put a money goal on my writing. I was like, this year my goal is to make $100,000 from writing deals alone. And I'm really, really close. But that goal is that's a real big goal for a writer, right? But just setting those goals, it programs your mind to think. So when somebody comes and asks me to write something, I'm thinking about that goal. So now I got to up my price a little bit if I want to make that goal, right? Psychologically, I think putting those types of goals down on paper is really helpful for your mindset.
Absolutely, and it pushes you, and you see that goal over and over again, and then when you achieve, you're like, "Oh, this is possible!" Like,
exactly.
And next thing you know, it's like, "Okay, if that's possible, let me take it to the next level."
Right.
So I think that's important, especially for those that are listening and watching. Like, yo, write those things out, even though it seems astronomical. Even though you don't even fully believe in that thing yet, it's like, yo, put it down. Put it down.
You gotta. So. I heard Drake one time. A lot of successful people say this. It used to piss me off. They used to be like, you got to detach from the goal. It's not about the goal. It's about the journey. So people who haven't reached your level yet are like, what are you talking about? Like, you can say that but here's the thing. It makes sense to me now. So the goal, let's say the goal is $100,000 in writing deals alone, right? If I don't make that goal, a lot of people, when they don't make their goal, they're disappointed. But if I don't make that goal, but I make $75,000, it was about the journey, because that's still, if I didn't set that goal, I probably wouldn't have made $75,000. So at the end of the year, if I don't make $100,000, I'm not gonna beat myself up about it, because I'm detached from the goal, because it was about the journey. The journey got me $75,000 more that I probably wouldn't have got last year because I didn't set that goal. So I'm really starting to understand that concept. Even like, a lot of writers want to be New York Times bestsellers. All right, put that on your goal. You might not make it, but some of the things that you might do on a journey to being a New York Times bestseller might actually be better than being a New York Times bestseller. And it's hard to like wrap your brain around that when you didn't reach your level yet, but you got to detach from the goal.
I love that. That's wow. That's a bar, and that's the truth. So hopefully y'all gathered something from that. Before we close, 'cause like I said, I want to respect your time. How can people get in contact with you? How can they tap in with you? You have a lot of stuff going on too.
Yeah. So at Dr. Sheena Howard, I used to be heavy on Twitter, but now I'm heavy on Instagram because my creative coach told me that's where the young people are. So I'm active on both. So at Dr. Sheena Howard, DrSheena Howard. That's where you can find me. Also, SheenaCHoward.com or DrSheenaHoward.com.
Thank you. Make sure y'all tap in with Dr. Sheena C. Howard and tap in with. She gives a lot of wisdom. I was actually on there watching your stuff. You give mad like free tips.
Oh, I give look.
Like a lot of free game. Like don't sleep, y'all. Don't sleep.
I give you the real stuff.
Don't sleep at all. Seriously though. But definitely make sure y'all tap in. So I want to jump into this before we close out because I have all my guests bring a quote.
Okay.
And I want to share the quote that you brought. It says, "Don't let your reality limit your imagination." Let me read that one more time. Don't let your reality limit your imagination. I love that. What does that mean to you?
So I sign all my books with that quote. And if somebody uses it, they better tag me. I think about somebody who grows up a black person that grows up in the city of Philadelphia specifically. And some people, like, they literally only see their four corners of their block. Like there's people in Philly right now who have never been out of Philadelphia, right? Or just every day what they see is just their neighborhood, their block. And I think sometimes it's hard to imagine the possibilities when you're in certain situations, or when people are telling you what you can and can't do, or when people are being discouraging. And so I think if you could just imagine beyond where you are, for a lot of people, that could be super powerful, right? Even my goal of $100,000 in writing deals, that is imagination, right? That's beyond anything that I've ever done so far. So if you can just think beyond your current circumstance, I think that's super powerful and just in having a better life.
I love that. I think about us as children with our great, beautiful imaginations and how throughout life it's kind of got dim and gray. Mm-hmm. We started using our imagination for the worst scenario possible. So I love that you shared that, don't let your reality limit your imagination. Don't allow this to stop you from dreaming and wanting to grow and be bigger. So yeah, kids have big dreams, and then you find out how the world works, and sometimes we dim those. Like, my son is 5. He's like, oh, I want to write this book. He was like, I watch Nick Jr. He's like, can you put my show? He's like, put my show on Nick Jr. And I'm like, okay, babe, well, like, it's a process, but I love it.
Yeah, I love it. But for kids, they don't know the process, so they have the dream. But then if I explain the process to him, it might make him feel like he can't accomplish that, right? So we have to keep that imagination alive. We have to keep the thing that we want alive so that we can actually do the thing.
That childlike belief is everything. If we can grasp that as adults, that
exactly.
belief is so powerful. Anyway, so last question for you before I let you go. This is the signature question for the show. As you know, the title of the show is Change What We Normalize. Mm-hmm. Change What We Normalize. It was birthed out of a situation that I was in when there was a lot of teen murders out in Atlantic City. Mm-hmm. Long story short, I said the quote at a rally I was speaking, and it just stuck with me. And I was like, this is something. So I love to ask my guests. I know what it means to me. I want to ask you, what does change what we normalize mean to you?
Change what we normalize. Man, this is a tough one because I don't want people to be atting me and stuff because they mad at what I said.
This is you.
You know what? I'm thinking about Kanye West randomly. So society tells us, all the quotes we see are, you got to believe in yourself. Nobody can believe in you for you. Your parents can think you're the greatest, but if you don't think it, you're not going to accomplish you're not going to reach your potential. You have to believe in yourself. However, what we have normalized is we're not allowed to say that out loud. If I came on your podcast and like, yo, I'm a writer, I'm a genius, what would people say? She's arrogant, her ego, right? So in one sense, society is telling us we got to have self-belief. We got to believe we're the best. We got to believe we can do it. But we're not allowed to say that out loud. We're not allowed to say that we're the best. Like, we are shunned, and we're shamed for believing in ourselves out loud. But at the same time, we all know that we have to believe in ourselves to get ahead. So I think that we should change. When we say change, what we normalize is that, like, we should be able to say that we're good at something. I should be able to say, you know what, I'm proud of myself today, Nate. Right? How many people have you heard say, you know what, I'm proud of myself today? If I just came on here talking like that, people would be like, oh, I don't like her, she's arrogant, right? And so I would say that. I would say that's what comes to mind. Like, I remember in the Kanye documentary, it was a little segment in there where he was saying that he's a genius or something, and the person was arguing with him. Like, he was like, you can't call yourself a genius. Somebody else has to call you a genius. But why? He wouldn't even be where he is if he did not think he was special, right? Because he would have not believed in himself. But we can't say that. We can't say that out loud. But yet we're supposed to feel that.
And think about how many people limit themselves because they're told not to say it.
We can't say that.
I can't believe it out loud, so I don't believe it internally.
Right.
Woo! I wish we had more time to go in, but I want to say first and foremost, thank you for your time. It's been a true blessing and an honor. Look, y'all, if y'all want her back for another episode, please let me know because I want to go deeper, and we would definitely love to have you back.
For sure, anytime.
Look, y'all, make sure that you subscribe, like, share, leave a review. Make sure you join the free inspirational text community where I'm tapping in with you every day, if not every day, every other day. I'm keeping 100 with y'all. It's like every other day. But I'm tapping in, sharing encouraging messages with you. And that number is 609-354-5810. Text CWWN. Again, CWWN to 609-354-5810. And as always, for closing, which is customary for the show, just a brief prayer covering over everything that you have going on. We're just going to tap into that, and then we're going to allow you to be free.
Beautiful.
So, dear God, we thank you for this opportunity to come together, to just bond and exchange energies and really add value to those that will watch this tomorrow, will watch this next week, will watch this 10, 20 years from now. It's a blessing to have such an incredible woman in Dr. Sheena C. Howard and all of the amazing things that she's doing and the barriers that she's breaking. I pray that you would continue to be a light and inspiration for everybody who's watching her journey, whether she knows it or not. She's been an inspiration to me and to so many others. And I pray that you would expand her work, expand her territory. And not only that she would just reach her goals, but that her reach and her impact will go far beyond anything that she can even ask, think, or imagine. And we believe this, and I thank you for this opportunity. And we just humble ourselves to you, and we're just grateful. And I pray this in your name, Lord Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Amen, y'all.
Thank you for that.
Episode. Thank you. That was another episode of the Change What We Normalize podcast. And as always, I love y'all. Peace.
Peace.